Well, welcome to this very important forum. My name is Jack Knott. I'm the Dean of the Saul Price School of Public Policy. We're really pleased that all of you can join us tonight. I really look forward to the discussion that we're going to have. 2 days ago, as you know, we had a momentous culmination of a very acrimonious and tumultuous election season. I sent out a message at that time urging people to vote, to be engaged, certainly to all of the Price community. And tomorrow I will be sending out a second message about the implications of the election for the kind of fields and that we deal with in the economy and in society. I would also invite all of you next Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock upstairs in RGL 209. We are going to host an open discussion about the election and its implications. It's going to be an open forum, so really encourage you to all attend that as well. To say that this event tonight is timely is really an understatement, not only because of the election, of course, but also as we all watch the TV and the video reports of the shootings of African Americans, both men and women, followed by confusion and questions and protest. We have all seen the distrust, the falsehoods, the cynicism that is combined to weaken our civic fabric in the country. And we've also seen how the significant accomplishments and achievements of Black lives have not been adequately acknowledged by our society and their role in our economy and in society. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we are broadening the conversation not only to state violence, to include all the ways in which Black people are intentionally left powerless. We are also talking about ways in which this kind of activity and this lack of acknowledgement leads to deprivation of human rights and indignity. And so that's the broad definition that we really care about. When we say Black Lives Matter, we are also strengthening a movement that has quickly grown into an international organization working to combat state violence in communities here and abroad. Black Lives Matter has created a policy agenda focused on changing public policy and institutions at all levels of government, including education, housing, health, finance, and of course, law enforcement. And here in Los Angeles, Black Lives Matter has focused much of its efforts on change in the Los Angeles Police Department by seeking new leadership, advocating for new policy regarding community oversight, and changing the way police are trained and interact with the community. Here at Price, we are nonpartisan, but of course we hold a core set of values that involve diversity, inclusiveness, and social justice, and we manifest this in multiple ways. Our initiative on diversity, inclusiveness, and social justice formalizes and builds on our efforts to include diversity in the curriculum and increase diversity in hiring new faculty and staff and in recruiting students. The initiative also cements efforts within the school to ensure a supportive climate and environment through mentorship programs, leadership role models, and professional developments. And we are devoting a significant amount of effort and interest in helping the community working at the community level by working to address the causes of violence and help public safety agencies develop the necessary trust between communities and their activities. So in addition, we organize events like this one. And I was really impressed by the coalition of sponsors, supporters, and student organizations that have come together to make this happen. And I want to list them, even though there are quite a few, just because I want to acknowledge their support. And I'd like you to give them a round of applause because it shows how important this is. So the Bedrosian Center on Governance, the Raw G Family Conversation Series, the Program for Environmental and Regional Equity, Associated Students of Planning and Development, Graduate Policy and Administration Community, the Partnership for an Equitable Los Angeles, the Queer Policy Caucus, Price Women and Allies, Price Society of Black Students, and the Return Peace Corps volunteer community have all contributed to this event. So could you give these organizations a round of applause? I would also encourage you to stay after the panel discussion for a post-panel breakout conversations. And all of you are welcome to stay for that, I guess, right? Okay, so at this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Lamika Castillo. Oh, you have a fan club. She seems to, maybe she is somebody that needs no introduction, it sounds like. But I want to say,
I invite all my friends to come, so you know.
I want to say a few things about her anyway. Lamika is the National Organizing Director of the National Foster Youth Institute. She joined the Institute team in 2015 and is leading the organization's efforts to build a national movement that will transform the child welfare system. She's also an alumna and adjunct professor now at the USC Sol Price School, where she received dual master's degrees in public policy and urban planning and certificates in public management and political management. She completed her undergraduate studies at the University of California, San Diego in ethnic studies and urban studies. And her passion for and commitment to improving outcomes for foster youth stem really from personal experiences growing up in a family with foster and adopted children. So her personal life experiences combined with her tremendous talent and ability and her faith encourage her passion for seeking justice and promoting good public policy. So once again, let's have a round of applause and welcome Lamika.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction, Dean Knott. I just have to say, it is truly an honor to be here to be able to moderate this panel. I was pleasantly surprised when I was invited to participate in this discussion. It is definitely something that's near and dear to my heart. There are students from my class here and they know how I feel about this topic and how we talk about it in class, so they can attest to that. And then also some of the young people I get to work with at the National Foster Youth Institute have an opportunity to be here with us today too. So I'm glad to see that they get to learn about a phenomenal movement that's been being built across the country as we work to build a movement that is very much tied to Black Lives Matter, but specifically for foster youth. So I want to give them a round of applause for being out here today too. And I am so glad that Dean Knott had introduced us to the topic, framing the conversation around what happened recently with the election. I am standing here trying not to burst into tears. I just have to be very honest about that. It's been a very difficult past couple days for me personally. And as Dean Knott said, I think this is a very timely conversation. Unfortunately, I feel like it's always a timely conversation given what's happening in our country on a regular basis. And I would like to see some change there. And I hope that, with conversations we have with the folks who've been very active in leading this movement for Black Lives Matter can help us to think about how we as policy folks, as planners, as other individuals who I know are not specifically in Price, but interested in making a change, how we can actually play a role in this movement, especially in light of what's been going on in our country over the past forever.
Exactly. Day one.
Right. So since you all know, I apologize that we're starting a little bit late, but we wanted to make sure that we had all of our panelists in the room because their voices are really what's critical to this conversation, and they're going to help us, again, think about what our role can be in this movement. And so instead of reading everybody's bios, I'm going to ask if Christina can send them out to folks. I know, Dean Knott, thank you for reading my bio. I usually don't want people to read my bio, but I appreciate that. But Christina can send them out, and as we have this conversation, you'll hear more about their personal stories and how they've been brought to this work and the work that they do. Is that fair? Great, so we can maximize our time. But I will introduce everybody. So we have Miss Lisa Hines, who is the mother of Waukesha Wilson, here on the end. You all.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Hey.
Thank you. Thanks, Akili. So this is a very. I'm not going to get into all of her bio, but many of you have probably heard her story. Her daughter lost her life at the hands of the police system here, actually in Los Angeles, and she's been very active in trying to transform the way that this system works as a result of very personal experiences in her life, as well as before that in the work that she's done for many years here in Los Angeles. We have Melina Abdullah, who is a professor and chair of the Department of Pan-African Studies at Cal State LA, and you all may have seen earlier the students at Cal State LA orchestrated a walkout and have been marching in protest of what's going on with our country just today. And she's been doing a great job leading the Black Lives Matter chapter here in Los Angeles, and we'll get to hear about that from her very soon. We have Nyala Noah, who is actually currently a student here. All right, yeah, clap it up for her, snap. She's a sophomore here at USC in the Thornton School of Music, and is a phenomenal activist in BLM here in Los Angeles, and we'll get to hear from her experiences as an activist in the community as well as a student on campus and how she brings those things together, especially in light of what I just learned today, which is that there were 2 students who were called the N-word here on campus at USC, which is very disheartening. And I know that she has been working, and many of you, I hope all of you are working to make sure that those things don't happen, and she'll talk a little bit about that. And then last but certainly not least, we have Pete White, who is the founder and executive director of Los Angeles Community Action Network, which is LA CAN. And he's doing a lot of phenomenal work to get affordable housing access and basically just phenomenal work doing community organizing all across the city of Los Angeles to make sure that the folks who, low-income people in this community have access to housing, and they've been doing a lot of work with BLM as well. So let's give our panelists a round of applause and we'll get started. So things have changed a little bit in terms of the questions, especially, and these questions were written before the election, and so I'm going to be ad-libbing a little bit to change them in light of what just recently happened. And I'll start off with the question to the entire panel, and whoever wants to start can get us started. So what does Black Lives Matter mean to you personally, especially and particularly in light of our recent election outcomes?
So thank you for this panel. Thank you for the space. Thank you to everybody for coming out, especially our Black Lives Matter family who's here. So can all the members and allies from Black Lives Matter stand up so everybody can see that it's a lot of folks. We believe in group-centered leadership. So you too. So both Pete and I serve on the leadership team for Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Nyala's a new member of Black Lives Matter. Sister Lisa is a member of Black Lives Matter. And we think that that's really important, the way that families are mobilizing. I'm one of the original organizers for Black Lives Matter, so just a little bit about how we formed and why it's important, especially in this moment. So Black Lives Matter formed July 13th, 2013. That's our birthday, right? The day that George Zimmerman was acquitted in the killing of Trayvon Martin. And for a lot of us, many of you may have been out in the streets with us, we poured out in the streets and did something that we call intuitive organizing, right? So there were rallies and marches. A lot of what's happening right now in the midst of this space that we're occupying, resistance to oppression is what was happening. And so we did that for a couple of days, and then I'm going to give the short version. And then on the 3rd day of that kind of intuitive organizing, a sister that I had been working with for some time, Pete's also been working with her through we were in that Black community organizers group for a minute. Patrice Cullors called us together, and she had been in conversation with Alicia Garza and Opal Tometi. So we now know Patrice, Opal, and Alicia as being the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. And we were kind of called to Patrice's home to talk about how to build a movement rather than a moment, right? And I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned now, right? So the point was that many of us had been involved in kind of episodic organizing. Anytime that something happened, injustice would happen and there would be a flare-up, and sometimes that flare-up would be a weekend, sometimes it would be a week, sometimes it would be months. In the case of Devin Brown, it was years, right, many years, but eventually we would go home, right? And so what Alicia, Opal, and Patrice had been talking about is how, the oppression of Black people doesn't stop, right? So we don't get to just flare up based on Oscar Grant, or because Devin Brown was killed, or because Margaret Mitchell was killed. something that we have to sustain. We have to continue to organize until we're actually free. And she encouraged us in that space to think about the legacy that we inherit, that we come from a Black liberation movement. And I don't want to steal your notes because I did see them. But I say it too. We just think alike, right?
Because I said it first.
Whatever. But the truth is that Black people have never submitted to our oppression, right? So since we were stolen from Africa, we've always resisted our oppression, right? So from the anti-slavery movement to the anti-lynching movement to the civil rights movement to the Black Power movement, there was only we need to think about the point that we weren't activated as the actual blip on the screen. That's the anomaly, right? That period in the 1980s when they had Bill Cosby trying to sell us Puddin' Pops and telling us to wear Coogee sweaters and not name our children African names, right? That's not the truth of who we've been as Black people, right? What they were trying to sell us is the idea that if we assimilate, if we try to incorporate into the system of white supremacist, patriarchal, heteronormative capitalism, that we will be rewarded. And that's how we actually get free. What we were reminded of by Patrice that night is that's not how we get free. We have to engage in the Black radical tradition. We have to engage, we have to pick up the mantle of the Black liberation struggle. For me, because that was the real question, for me what that meant is thinking about what the Black radical tradition looks like now as a Black woman, as a single Black mother, as somebody who literally sees, I don't know if you can see my son, but when Trayvon was killed, it triggered something a little different for me than, I'd been involved loosely in, most of the resistance moments, right? But when Trayvon was killed, I literally saw my son's face in Trayvon's face, like literally, like he reminds me of him. And not the way Barack Obama said, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon, like for real, right? And so it triggered something for me, but it also meant that as a Black mother, I can't be a part of a movement that requires that I figure out more time to engage, right? So we built a movement that was intentionally rooted in what we call a womanist Black nationalist tradition, right? With a queer and trans lens. That means bring all of who you are into the movement. So my kids are here partially because I'm a single mom and I don't have childcare, but also intentionally, right? As a Black mother, I'm a mother all the time and I shouldn't have to go hide them in a corner somewhere so I can come talk to y'all, which I see as part of my work as a Black Lives Matter organizer, right? So for me, and I think for all of us, because sometimes Amara reminds me that she's also an original member of Black Lives Matter. And you are too, right? That it really caused us to shift the way we live our lives. So to be in struggle constantly. The battlefield is everywhere, right? And to be in a constant state of struggle and to really see myself as being constantly in the state and building a struggle that accommodates that and is also a space where I go really for refuge. Today, the day after we're learning about this horrific, racist, sexist, homophobic, he's an old school sheet wearing racist, right? Who is now the president-elect, and we need to also think about who elected him because they are too. Whoever voted for him, they're, straight up sheet-wearing racists too, right? I think it requires that we build movements that offer spaces for us to really heal and engage in ways that feed our souls, not just spaces where we push back against what is. So I'm sorry for the long answer. Okay. The rest will be short, I promise.
I think we were done now. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right. Who's up next? Nyala, do you want to share?
Sure. So I got involved with Black Lives Matter over the summer around June. Actually, one of my friends, Sophia in the back, we both went to a protest down at Crenshaw and King. just because we were just very upset with all the incidents that were happening with Alton Sterling and all the police brutality that was happening over the summer. And I got involved with Black Lives Matter because I was tired of just sitting around not knowing what to do. I feel like a lot of the times, millennials especially, we don't know what exactly we're supposed to be doing with all of this. Like, we look back in history and we're like, okay, like, this is pretty much repeating itself, but what can we do to contribute? So that was my reasoning to get involved with Black Lives Matter, because I saw a group of people, a leaderful group of people that are inclusive as heck, because I'm queer as well. So like, there's so many identities that I have to think about constantly. But I got involved with BLM because I was like, this is standing for something, and this is actually like making progress. And I think a lot of the times BLM doesn't get the credit that they deserve. A lot of the times you hear people try to discredit them, call them a hate group, say if they don't get anything done, they're like, oh, the marches, like all the marches aren't gonna do anything. But there's so much other work that happens behind the scenes that like nobody knows about because the media chooses to not televise that, which is just, this is another story for another time. But yeah, so my whole reasoning behind BLM, like being involved in that, was just because for once I saw a movement that included all of my identities and includes other folks as well. Even though it's Black Lives Matter, we do a lot of stuff for like the No Dakota Pipeline. We also do stuff with the Brown Berets. Like, we are very, very inclusive and we're very open. And like seeing that in a time like this, especially now that that man is our president, like the fact that that's a thing, it's just very comforting and it's very reassuring, and it like reminds us that, you know, there's hope, because there's people that are here that are like willing to change and like willing to impact this and abolish this messed up system. So hope that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My daughter, Waukesha Wilson, she brought me to Black Lives Matter. But before my daughter, I had been watching them in action on Facebook, TV, you know, the news and stuff. But I was intrigued with them because they were doing things that the media, the police themselves wouldn't normally do, they don't do for black people. So when my daughter died, I can't even tell you who introduced me to this lady. Brittany. Oh, it was my cousin. Because, you know, it don't even matter. All that matters is I know her. And I'm so thankful for her, Patrice, and the whole organization, because they have stood behind me from day one. And it's not a game or anything to them. You know, they support me in anything I want to do. That was my only child. So half the time I don't know what I'm doing. Like right now, I really don't know what I'm saying, but I hope you guys can, you know, feel me, okay? But what I've seen them do and what they have did for me, I couldn't do anything else but be committed to the movement. You know, I have family, and they haven't given me as much support as Melina, Dr. Melina, Brother Akili, Brother Trevor, and Sister Irina, and even Pete. They all have been like family to me. And what can I say? But, you know, join them and be committed with them. You know, so that's what brought me to them. Black Lives Matter. I love them. And they're my family now, you know. My daughter, she's not resting, and she won't rest until justice is served. And from what I can see, the only way I'm gonna get that is with Black Lives Matter organization standing with me. So I love them. I love them.
Love you too.
And one more thing. my daughter, it's not only for my daughter. Now, you know, you don't really want to get involved until it's in your own backyard. Right. I had been feeling for these other people I had been seeing going through what I'm going through now. And that's what I like, because even though it's my own child that I'm fighting for, sometimes I know I have to push my daughter, not push her back, but, you know, just hold off for a minute because someone else fell behind my daughter. And you know, it's hard sometimes, but I know it's not all about her. It's about all of us. And that's what Black Lives Matter is about. Not just one person, it's about black people, our people, you know? And hey, I love it. I love it. So, you know, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to give a special acknowledgement to you and thank you for being here and being a part of the movement. I don't know if anybody else in this room can say that they can identify with exactly what you've been through, losing your daughter to the hands of a system that is very flawed. And I don't want to use the word broken. We can talk about that, but I think it's, you know, it's very flawed, and it takes a lot of courage to stand up for not just your daughter, but for anybody who's been impacted by this and who hasn't been, to prevent this from continuing to happen. So thank you, and I think we should just at least acknowledge that. Thank you. Pete.
So yeah, Melina, you left me a little bit, I think. I've rethought some of my stuff. So I don't know, I think a couple of things brought me to Black Lives Matter. I think my birth brought me to Black Lives Matter. My mother and my grandmother, who filled me with a strong desire. My grandmother told me never work for white folks, right? And the idea that I had a grandmother that would teach me that as I was growing up was preparing me for this movement, this moment, right? I think picking up on some of what you heard, just sharpening a couple of points. The idea of our stories of resistance, right? And the ideas of who are the storytellers, right? When we are taught, even in halls like this, we're oftentimes taught to think about our resistance and our struggle as situated in a Hollywood moment of the civil rights movement, which, if you believe Hollywood, that shit lasted like 2 years and it was over, right? But when you really dig deeper, of course, we've been resisting, right, from the moment we were packed on ships, right? But also when we begin to formalize, when you think about, we would say 1907, the Niagara movement, where we first saw W.E.B. Du Bois and others, right? Then we go into the anti-lynching movement, right? And a little bit later in the anti-lynching movement, we see Ella Baker, right, beginning to shape her craft, right, her leadership, right? We keep pushing into the Voters' Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Movement, right? But we're still building from those earlier days, because we're not talking about an aberration, but a continuation of a particular practice of resistance in this anti-black racist situation that we find ourselves. We then find ourselves in the Black Power movement, right? And as Melina said, then we have that little period in the 80s where we're trying to figure out what it is we're doing, right? But even in the 80s and in the 90s on the ground, and that's when I come in, folks in the neighborhood are beginning to figure out how to lay down the pistols, right? How we begin to unite ourselves. Just so folks know, I grew up on 39th and Western, right? I used to come through this spot before all the walls and all the gates were here. So it's interesting to see the fortress that exists now. But I'm here to remind you that even though you have the walls, it is not an island, right? It exists within a context, right, of a community that's been here for a long time and that's going to fight to stay. And so when we think about Black Lives Matter and why I'm involved personally, it's something that Soledad brother George Jackson said. He said that if there's an issue, if you acknowledge an issue exists, you are duty bound to do something about it, right? So at the moment that you can turn to someone else and say, that's an issue, that's a problem, that is something that needs to be fixed, you are duty bound to do something about it. And if you don't, you are complicit in whatever that thing is. So if it's on this campus, if it's outside of this campus, if it's in your family, once you acknowledge that a problem exists, you are duty bound to do something about it. And then just in ending, I'm reminded, particularly with our movement, right? When we talk about group-centered leadership from a womanist perspective, I have got to acknowledge, right, that women have been the guide-ons in every movement, right? But they have not been recognized. And in this movement, I am ready to follow, right? I am ready to be led, right? And then the second thing about this movement, we refuse the idea that we are going to push in a trunk as they did Bayard Rustin in the civil rights movement. One of the master strategists, because he was gay, pushed him in the trunk and snuck him out of the town. And we're saying to our queer brothers and sisters, your leadership is renowned and we are going to prop up and stand next and with you. And so we are attempting to articulate a new determination around Black struggle and Black movement. And we're babies and we're young at it, but we're moving quickly.
Before we get to the next question, I know we said her name. Does everybody know the story of Waukesha Wilson? Who does know? Who doesn't know? Okay. So we need to share. Do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
I'm gonna break down.
Okay. So I'm going to tell it quickly. But I think that just like Brother Pete said, I want you to hear so that you are duty bound to do something about it. So Sister Waukesha Wilson was in LAPD Metropolitan Detention Center. She'd been arrested on a really minor charge on Easter Sunday. And she called her mom and talked with her on Easter Sunday and said, you know, we're going to just wait until Tuesday till I see the judge and then I'll get out, right? Minor charge. You know, one of the things that these systems try to do is try to drain us of our resources, right? Try to make you pay bail for something you shouldn't have been arrested on in the first place, right? Yeah, Brother Keeley knows, right? That's why you dressed up, right? Just came from court. Just came from court. So Sister Lisa was waiting on Waukesha to call back. So she called her that morning, and then she was going to call back. Waukesha never called back. Sister Lisa goes to court like Waukesha asked her to on Tuesday. And anybody who's been to court knows there's a roster. Waukesha's name was not on the roster. So she waits all day long. You have to show up at court usually at 8 o'clock in the morning. All day long until 4:30.
Till they saw the last inmate. Till they closed. Basically, till they closed.
And Waukesha doesn't come. So what would any mother do? Look for their child. Calls around, next day is still calling around, and is finally connected with the coroner's office. No,
I called Tuesday after court, and they told me they couldn't find her. They were looking for her. And I asked them, how do you not know where she is? Why do you have to find her? She's in your custody.
Right.
And they said, well, just call back. So I did. And I kept calling every 10, 15 minutes. And they still didn't know where she was. They didn't have no information. They just kept giving me different numbers to call. So I finally ended up with Officer Brown. And he, when I said, I'm the mother of Waukesha Wilson, he was like, shocked, surprised. Oh, you're the mother? And I said, yes. He said, hold on. Left me holding on for about 20 minutes. He came back and said, you need to give me your information, your callback number, because my
Watch commander.
watch commander needs to speak with you. And I'm like freaking out. Why do he need to speak with me? And he said, I can't give you any information. I just need for you to wait for him to call you. So I give him my callback number. He never calls me. Oh, maybe 2 or 3 hours went by. So I'm restless. I'm walking around with my phone in my hand. So I called him back. The watch commander was not available then, so I hung up. I let 45 minutes to an hour go by and I called back. The watch commander got on the phone and he said, Ms. Hines, I'm gonna give you a number and I need you to call a number and ask for investigation. And so I freaked out. I'm like, investigations? Why? Where's my daughter? Is she okay? Is she hurt? Is she alive? And he said, I can't give you any information, just call this number. So I just hung up and I called the number. And when I called, the coroner's office answered. And I knew, why would he give me a coroner's office number? My baby was dead and he knew. They all knew. They all knew. They told me they couldn't find her. They didn't know where she was. They knew then. When I was at the court building, asking was I in the right department. They knew. One time I called the police station, they told me all they saw was zeros behind her name. They knew that. So, I don't have any faith in the system. None. I do know a mother is not supposed to bury their child. The child is supposed to bury the parent. And they won't tell me nothing. They won't give me any information. I don't know.
So we still have no information. We still have no information. Sister Lisa comes to police commission meeting every single Tuesday and asks for the facility where Waukesha was killed is a new facility. Everything is videotaped. No information has been given. So when we say her name, when we say her name, say her name, say her name, we're saying that to summon her energy into this space so that Waukesha can work through her mother, work through us, and work through all of us to say we don't believe their story when they say that she hung herself from a phone booth that sits 2 feet off the floor with a cord that's less than 11 inches long. And then by some accounts, after she hung herself, moved herself to the middle of the cell. We don't believe that. We don't believe that. And that's not gonna go unanswered for. So that's why we do the work. That's why it's important to do the work, and that's why now that you know, you need to help with this work.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson.
Say her name.
Waukesha Wilson. Thank you. To build on that, I wanted to know what exactly the work is in Los Angeles, right? So I would love to hear from Pete and Nyala, since you're both leaders in BLM here in Los Angeles. Can you tell us a little bit, and you can add to it when they're done, tell us a little bit about what the vision is and what the goals are of Black Lives Matter locally, and then Melina, if you could talk afterwards about Black Lives Matter nationally, about how BLM LA fits into that national movement. Thank you.
Okay. Whole purpose of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, to start off, going back to what I was saying previously, we emphasize the importance of all Black lives mattering. So that means like Black people in the middle class, that means queer folks, that means women, that means trans folks, that means every identity, every background. As long as you're a Black person, like your life matters to us. I mean, all lives matter to us. So that's pretty much like the premise of what we do. In terms of the work, I have been super busy with school, so I feel like Melina should address what work we've been doing, or Pete can address that, just because I feel like you guys are have more knowledge about what's going on right now at this moment.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things, even before getting into the work, it's important to talk about how we're organized, right? We're organized on a committee structure, so there's a number of different committees. Melina mentioned the Action Committee. We have a Cultural Committee, a Communications Committee, right, that focuses on these specific areas that we need to both hone in the work and the sort of social justice agenda, but also to increase our bandwidth to bring in partners and others into the movement, right? Because we're talking about a movement and we're trying to bring in as many folks as possible, Black folks first, but also allies, right, to help move forth this vision. In Los Angeles, a lot of people know our work to be around disrupting the police department, LAPD, right? One of the things core to our LAPD work is to get rid of Chief Beck, right? To fire Chief Beck. Now we're really clear that once Chief Beck is gone, and he will be gone, another chief will be there, and we'll have to start that work as well. But the legacy of Chief Beck currently, in the ways in which he fails to discipline officers and instead, in his words, offers training and support to officers, we say is a no-go. And so one of the core things we're focused on is getting rid of Chief Beck. Some of the other things that we're looking at within the LA Police Department is the ways in which they discipline folks, the ways in which public meetings, we're trying to put the P back into public meetings. We don't believe that a meeting is public when it's held in a $564 million building in downtown Los Angeles, where every Tuesday they put barricades up around the entire building and make the Black and brown folks go in the back door and say that's the way that the community is going to participate, right? We don't believe that. We also don't believe that you can have meetings at 9:30 in the meeting around policing in Los Angeles and really want to involve the greater population of Angelenos. And so we're trying to move those meetings, right? We're trying to re-examine the ways in which discipline happens in the LAPD. And let me say, while some of the agenda is a reformist agenda, it's with an eye towards revolution, right? So even though we talk about sort of tinkering around the edges, at the end of the day, we want to only invest in things that change the material conditions for folks on the ground. Because it's only when we change the material conditions where you can feel them that you are going to be inspired to join the movement, right? And so locally, that's sort of the core set of items that we're focusing on. But additionally, for us, the job of organizing, right, is to make sure We are developing leadership, right, that lives beyond the effort. Oftentimes when we talk about leadership, no one really knows how to evaluate leadership, right? What we know for certain is leadership is not just the person who gives a good speech, right? Leadership is actually measured by the numbers of leaders that are created by the person with the assignment of being a leader. And so that's a metric, right? So Pete White, you're a leader. How many folks have you developed, right, who can go ahead and continue to build out cells based on the movement that we find ourselves in? Want to add?
Okay, no problem. So jumping on to everything that was just said, over the summer we had an encampment that we called Decolonize LA City Hall. We call it Decolonize just because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to decolonize our minds in the way that the system is set up and how we view the police system and vice versa. We were out there for 53 days. Like camped out in front of City Hall for 53 days, moved back and forth across the street because there are all these different issues that were happening, but like 53 days. I personally didn't stay there, but the amount of people I knew that were there every single day did not go home. Like did not go home to their families, didn't go to work, like called out of work like on various occasions. Yeah, so we have this decolonization, and like within there we had a lot of people come and go. A lot of homeless people would come in and speak to us and share their stories. A lot of people that were victims to police violence would come in and share their stories. And within the encampment, we also held a lot of workshops because you can't really take down a system without the knowledge. So we would have a lot of different like self-defense workshops, workshops talking about what to do exactly if you ever get into these situations, and then also emphasizing the importance of mental health and like Black mental health, because this is very draining work and this is very difficult work, and it can really mess with your mental and your emotional health. So we very much emphasize that. But yeah, in terms of like decolonization in LA City Hall, like it was honestly like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Even though there were all of these different altercations and there were very like lots of conflicts, it brought in so many different types of people and had us just come together for one common goal. We also had our general meetings there every Sunday, so you would see people come in that heard about the encampment through social media, through friends of friends and whatnot. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there so you guys could kind of get an idea of the whole encampment, because how many of you actually knew about decolonization of LA City Hall? Okay, cool, that's what's up, that's really good.
Yeah,
honestly.
especially because there was a media whiteout on it.
Exactly, yeah. But yes.
Yeah. So you wanted me to tie it into the national? Right.
National movement.
Okay. So LA is the first chapter of Black Lives Matter. So sometimes you'll hear people talk about the LA chapter and go, well, the LA chapter is kind of unruly. Well, if we're unruly, it's meant to be unruly because we're the first chapter, right? So, you know, we're not trying to, I think Pete said it well, like we're not trying to just tinker around the edges of the system. We believe the entire system is intentionally and deliberately created to produce these outcomes, right? And so, yeah, I know this is a policy school. There's some policy stuff that can be done, but more than policy work, where we vision ourselves as Black Lives Matter is really in doing three things. We want to raise the consciousness. We want you to know where policing comes from in this country, what it's rooted in. That, you know, it's rooted in slave catching. You can't reform slave catching. Come on, man, right? So you should know that, right? The second thing that you should do, and I think this is absolutely right, is once you know, you have to move, right? So we want to mobilize folks to move, right? And then the third thing that we want to do is, as consciousness is raised and as the people are mobilized, we also need to spend time visioning the kind of system that we want to live under and work to transform the system into that. So we believe we're a police abolitionist group. We don't believe that we need people patrolling our streets with guns and tanks and whatever other tools they have, right? We believe that when we think about the killings of our folks at the hands of the police, a lot of times it's because the police were not the right people for the job, right? Brother J.R. Thomas was having a mental health issue, right? Why are the police coming? Right? Why are the police there, right? If somebody's running away from the police, right? If they're a kid writing, in the case of Jesse Romero, writing graffiti, then maybe he needs an after-school program, a summer program to give him something to do. Maybe he needs a graffiti writing class, right? Maybe that's what he needs, right? And so we think that it's wrong that we live in a city where 54% of our city budget goes to LAPD. 54%. That's your money, right? Where do we want that money to go? And the numbers are not different in any major city in this country. Every major city spends just about 50% of its budget on police. It's also mirrored nationally, where we're spending 55% of the national budget on military, right? So what else could we be doing with that money? And so Black Lives Matter really, we believe in transforming the system. And in the context of the current moment, right, when we think about these presidential elections, some people, I don't know if you all have been reading this on social media, right? Like, what's wrong with black people? Why didn't they vote in higher numbers for Hillary Clinton, right? What's wrong with white people? Y'all voted for Trump, right? How about that, right? But also, I think it lifts up that, you know, when we talk about transformation, it's not enough to elect somebody who smiles at you as they screw you, right? We want to be able to live in a free world where my children don't have targets on their backs, right? Where our fathers and sisters and mothers, you know, they just killed Sister Michelle Shirley in Torrance on Halloween night. I hope that you all know that, right? This is not such a regular occurrence that even those of us who are entrenched in the movement forget the names. We go, we start writing lists. Who are we forgetting? We literally did this, I think, yesterday or day before. We're writing the names and go, oh, but that one wasn't LAPD, that was sheriffs, right? But who else was LAPD? Because there's 21 in 2015. We only got 19. Who were the other two, right? And so this is the kind of work that we need to be doing nationally. And I think this moment really gives us an opportunity to figure out who else is with us in it and how we do this work. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Irene, and I just had a question. I was talking to a professor actually right before I came here, and he said something to me that spoke a lot, and I want your opinion on it. And he said what happened with the presidential election was that we saw white America actually, we saw the fear they have of this era of globalization that we're in, of how America is transforming before their eyes. He specifically spoke about LA and how we don't necessarily think that, don't consider the Midwest states, for example, and how they're not as diverse as we are, and how the election was a reflection of that and of their fear of what's going to happen. So I was just wondering, because I thought that just, you know, got me thinking on so many things. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you thought about that?
Let me talk on that. So I've had that discussion with a couple people today, trying to figure out why exactly Trump won. Yeah, why exactly that happened. And based off of a lot of the conversations that we had, it sounds like, for the most part, number one, I think we all forgot that the rest of America isn't this liberal and isn't this open-minded. Like, that's like the biggest thing, to me at least. I feel like even though a lot of us were very, you know, like we were living life in like the Obama era, I guess is what a lot of people are calling it, there are also like a good amount of other people who completely were against every single thing that man stood for. And what like was passed, like from LGBT rights to like movements such as this happening. So that being said, I think the only difference is the fact that like they actually came out and voted. Because I was talking about this with a friend of mine, part of the reason why Obama won and why Obama like had his 2 terms was because of the fact that the black vote was very much present, because finally black voters saw somebody that looked like them running in the office. So people are like, oh, why wouldn't I vote? And I've like spoken to a lot of people at the school who were like, oh, I didn't vote because my vote didn't matter, or I didn't vote because I didn't feel comfortable, or like lesser of two evils. And like for the most, like I agree with that to an extent, but I feel like part of part of the reason why this happened, unfortunately, is because of the fact that we're not that open-minded. Not everybody here is very open-minded. There is a lot of hate in this country. A lot of people are sitting here acting like racism just popped up yesterday. Right. That's the thing that's crazy to me. People are sitting here like there's so many white people, we were talking about this yesterday, who are legit on the street like sobbing because they, for once in their life, there are white women who are like for example, or like queer white people who are literally crying because for once they're finally recognizing, oh my gosh, we're being oppressed too. It's not just them, it's all of us. And yeah, unfortunately, like it's just I think a lot of hate just really drove him into office, unfortunately. Yeah. And I feel like that's like the general statement. I feel like we can dig into that deeper. But primarily, I think it's because there's a lot of hate in this country, and a lot of these people that have these same ideologies that he had have been silent for so long, and now they finally saw somebody who has maybe not all the ideologies, but a good amount. So they were just like, why wouldn't we support him? Like, we're sick of this. We want to see some change. Just like we want to see some change, and like why we're having a movement like this, they want to see some change. It's not the change I want to see, but you know. So I definitely think that has a lot to do with it.
So my question, I know there's policy folks and urban planners in the room, so that's what my question is directed at. How can urban planners and policymakers support your work beyond showing up to actions? Because transportation planning is anti-Black, housing shit is anti-Black, planning shit is anti-folks of color. So how can these folks show up for y'all outside beyond actions? Because of course they show up to actions and that's wonderful, but how can we support you as like transportation planners, as housers? I know you're gonna have an answer.
That was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask. So, hello, policy planner right here. You know I had you. Thank you.
So a couple of things. We definitely need that support from planners. I think we need an organizer in the planning school because when we think about gentrification, that's driven by planners, right? When we think about redlining, right, historically, that came out of the government, and I'm sure planners were behind that, right? And so we need folks within these institutions organizing a caucus of planners for good, right? That's the first thing. So for us, we've used public policy to hold the line in downtown Los Angeles, right, against gentrification. We knew early on in the downtown gentrification fight in 2004 and 2005 that if they ever moved you from the land, you was never going back. History shows us that, right? If they ever move you, forget all the promises about relocation, if they ever move you, ain't no going back. The other thing that we were very clear about, and we were learning on the fly, is that this idea of displacement was not true, right? So the idea for us, and we actually renamed displacement into banishment, because that's actually what's happening. Displacement suggests that you have somewhere else to go, right? And so when they've planned you out of your community, when they've renamed South Central Los Angeles SOLA, and if any of y'all are involved with renaming South Central Los Angeles SOLA, we got squabbles. So as soon as they begin to rename your community while you're still there, you are gone, right? And so the first thing you do is say to folks who come to you and ask you to intern or ask you to come up with these brain projects, say the first thing we're not doing is renaming where people live. Right. That's the first thing you do, right? I got off track a little bit because I'm from South Central Los Angeles, and that always does something to me. I would also say participate in a real way with real grassroots initiatives around you, right? The best education and the best schooling you're going to get is in authentic grassroots organizations that are involved in this fight, right? And at the end of the internship, I'm looking over at my girl Christina over here, walk into it if you are accepted in these organizations as knowing you should be a lifelong ally. And so we're not suggesting as a planner You can't go off and plan for the government. We're saying if we've done our job, that we're going to send you over there like a spy and a plant to make sure that whatever policies we are creating, even if you can't stop it, you're going to bring the information to us, right? To make sure that you are not helpful in them erasing our story and our epistemologies, right? We know that we are the owners of our truth and the owners of our destiny. So there's a lot for planners to do, and we can have a whole nother policy conversation.
Pete, you're making me feel guilty about not working as a planner. I left the city planning department after my internship.
But you got a double master. We can get you somewhere else.
Dr. Abdullah, you said that you're a police abolitionist. Is part of the perspective of Black Lives Matter to get rid of law enforcement, or is it more on the reform side? And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, we want to get rid of them.
I was like,
Right. And that doesn't mean that communities will be unsafe, right? So we want to think about public safety holistically. We know that the vast majority of crime is crime of need that can be, we can abolish crime by providing the resources to communities that are necessary, right? We also know that communities have the ability to keep themselves safe, right? And so we want to develop those sorts of things. And yeah, we want to get rid of the police completely. We don't think that we need them. And especially in Black, brown, and poor communities, they are much more dangerous to us than they are, kind of a protective force.
And let me just add just a little bit. In the city of Los Angeles, as Melina was saying, 54% of $7.8 billion goes to the police department. The police department is the only recession-proof department in the city of Los Angeles. And so when you're cutting resources elsewhere, the police budget continues to blossom. And so when you're cutting librarians, when you're cutting services, when you're firing teachers, right, the police department budget continues to grow. And so for us, we're reimagining what public safety means. And that reimagining and that articulation actually causes and has created a lot of tension across the country, right? They're trying to make us debt that noise. Like, wait a second, you're saying that public safety shouldn't mean more police, more jail cells, more police cars, more stingrays? We're saying, nah, it means housing. It means services. It means everything that keeps us safe, right? The things we need. The last thing, just in terms of when we're talking about reframing the debate around policing, and Melina was getting at this earlier, police were not only just slave catchers. At every point in history, they were used to topple movements that were attempting to build equity. It was interesting that Chief Bratton was on the Tavis Smiley show, and he had this to say. Chief Bill Bratton, former New York chief, then LA, then back to New York, and then the community ran him out. He said, of course, the police were used to subjugate African Americans. And he said this in his thick Boston accent. And he goes through the whole history. He was like, yes, during slavery, yes, during the civil rights movement, yes, through the union movement. The only thing he did not continue saying is, and we continue to do it today, and it is expensive. And so for us, we're saying, nah, enough of that, right? Our alternative of our communities, right, is where the budget comes to us. We know what we need to be safe.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Hines if you feel comfortable sharing a little bit. You said earlier that you don't trust the system, and I think that this ties into this conversation about the vision. What do you envision, or do you have some ideas about, how the system can be changed to make it safer for all of us?
We don't need the police. No, I don't trust them. They, the whole system is corrupt. Everywhere, not just here in LA, all across the country, they corrupt. Like Dr. Melina said, we don't need them. We can police ourselves. We can protect ourselves. They don't protect nobody but them.
Right.
So I don't trust them.
So first, I want to thank each of you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story about your daughter. It really struck my heart. Today, I'm with my sisters and brothers from the National Foster Youth Institute for Autism. And what really stuck out to me the most was when I heard it's more than policy. Like, we have to raise the consciousness, and how can we change a system, or think we can reform a system that's rooted in slave catching. That really touched my heart, because I currently work for a system in which my sisters and brothers from the National Foster Youth Institute come from. And I got in and I thought I could make change, and I'd always heard about bureaucracy and politics, but I thought if I got in the system in which I came from, I could make change. And when I got in, I was happy and I was excited and I was getting awards. And then I made a pilot program to make real change within the system. Not just that, let's sit around the table, have Sherry, the only African American, sitting with everybody else so we can say we have a foster youth in the room. Really like, no, I want to actually do some stuff.
Right.
And then I saw the backlash.
Right.
And then I never knew that being in a system, that my background would come into place. I thought my background would be the power to make change. I really didn't think that. So African American, being in foster care is when your parents don't have you, the government do. Coming from Watts, California, growing up in places like South Central and Inglewood, being able to overcome all of that and be able to be educated, Cal State Northridge University, Santa Monica College, at the top of my class, able to articulate, able to code switch real quick when I need to, because y'all know I don't talk like Like, I thought I could make change, but then I couldn't. And then when our president became president, as he did, I said, I want to make change, but how can I do it? Because I got in a system which is rooted in, like you said, this slave-catching mentality who don't want to change. There's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. I was thinking I wanted to go to law school. I was like, if I go to law school, maybe I can change policy, because I'm good at getting people to come on my side. I know how to speak to different people in different rooms. I know how to talk like this, and I also know how to talk like, hey, how are you people? But again, inherent, it's more than policy. I want to know, what can I personally do? Because I do want to get out of the system. I do want to get a new job. But then again, there's a lot of stuff, because I do have to pay my bills. The system do pay you very well. When they say, like, people sell out, I see why. $7.50 an hour, that's some good stuff. Now, wait a minute, I like to get my hair done, nails done, everything. So how can I get out of a system that's paying so well and become a part of the Black Lives Movement?
We need you, right? I think that there's always kind of this tension between what we vision and the world that we live in, right? So I'm gonna be real with you, right? I'm a single mom of 3 kids. I'm only gonna go so far, right? I'm not gonna do anything. In fact, since you're here, you should know that one of the threats that they use for the moms is that they're gonna call DCFS on us when we're out protesting. When we were at the encampment, initially most of the moms were there and we would have our kids in the tents overnight. We're there, we built family, and then we got a call that said they're starting to call DCFS, right? I'm not that hard. You're not gonna take my kids away from me, that's my line, right? So I'll go home, I might not sleep long, but I'm gonna go home and I'm not gonna risk my kids, right? So I'm saying that to say that we all live in a world that creates certain constraints. It's not the world that we vision yet, right? So I do go to work every day, right? You don't have to completely step out of the system in order to be a part of the revolution, right? So let's dismantle and build at the same time, right? Let's think about the spaces that we occupy. Let's think about how we can disrupt the spaces that we're in. Let's think about how we can use every resource we have access to for the purpose of movement building and do that work. And as we begin to do that work, we'll be able to pull out further and further from the existing system, right? Think about what your lines are and go a little bit further, right? That's what I'd say. So for everybody here, there's 3 ways that you can contribute to Black Lives Matter. You have your voice. You've been sitting here listening to stories listening to, kind of getting information about what Black Lives Matter is. You should know that Rudy Giuliani, who they're saying is going to become the next Attorney General, has already declared publicly that he's going to make Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization and start prosecuting us, right? So we need you to push back against that narrative. So you know what Black Lives Matter is. Every time they say it's terrorism, we need you who are not in BLM, right, or who are not yet in BLM, right, to say this is what it is. We need your voice. We need your bodies. So when we're out, Tuesday morning, we need you at 9 a.m. at LA City Hall. This Tuesday, November 15th, we need you. We need you to put your body on the line. Come out with us. I don't mean you have to go to jail. I don't mean you have to get beat down, but we need your presence there, right? And then we need your resources, right? So resources can be money. We do need your money, right? But we also need access to a place to meet. If you can sing, we need you to come and sing a song. Whatever it is you have to bring, we need you to bring it to the movement. And so those are the three ways you can contribute. And we hope that you will all contribute. And it's Black folks and it's also non-Black folks. So we do have spaces for allies to be organized in partnership with us.
Dr. Melinda, you were actually on the 13th Amendment, which really, or not the amendment, the 13th documentary, which really brought up a lot of information and just gave a platform for a lot of the prison boom that was happening and going on. And so my question to you is, what is Black Lives Matter doing about the prison population? Is there anything going on regarding that?
Great. Oh, sorry. Do you want to write that down and then I'll get the next couple
sure.
questions? Okay, right here in the front, Donna.
Hi, I'm Donna with the National Foster Youth Institute. Now that Trump has been elected, I can't say Trump and president at the same time. He's been elected. I'm concerned that the police around the country have been empowered and emboldened, and I would suspect that a lot of them that are not men of color and women of color voted for him. So I know it hasn't been a long time, but I'm wondering if Black Lives Matter is planning to develop a strategy, a policy, a way of dealing with what I think we should all anticipate is going to be open season.
Thank you. Y'all know who's going to get that one? Okay, yes.
I just, if you guys are policy writers, one thing that you could do to keep people that are being displaced is write a policy that when they do apply for the housing that is low income in those communities, it does not have to go to a lottery, that it stays within that community where it's at. So you guys are policy writers, please write something on that, because that's a problem that we have with the units that are around here with low income housing. There is no guarantee that the people that live in those communities are going to get those homes, because it's a lottery, and a lot of our folks don't pass those credit applications. So if you guys could help in that way, please write some policy. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
So just quickly on the prisons, we believe that police abolition and prison abolition go hand in hand. So we're also a prison abolitionist organization, and we work with folks who are doing that work. We're actually preparing to charter our first in-prison chapter. So looks like that's going to happen within the next couple of weeks, where prisoners are organizing themselves and wanting to be a part of Black Lives Matter and doing the work there. Baba Akili is here, and I just want to acknowledge him. Baba Akili is one who's trained many of us and has been in the struggle for a long time. He's also currently on trial for disrupting a police commission meeting. So that's why he's wearing a suit today. But one of the things that I learned from Baba Akili is the difference between activism and organizing. Activism is something where you just get up, right? Organizing is getting people to act in their own interests and on their own behalf. And so if we believe in prison abolition, it's really important that prisoners are at the forefront of that work. Yeah.
And just in terms of looking out the front windshield, in terms of criminalization of movements that we know is going to come at us with this administration, because it's no different than the last administration and the administration before that. A lot of our criminal code in this country was developed, right, during the civil rights movement and before, right? And so we were targeted, or the system was built based on keeping us quiet. The stakes are high today, right? Melina and I, we joke all the time because when we're on our phones are getting warm, Stingray, it's cutting out. I mean, we know we're surveilled, right? We're doing this work in the face of surveillance, in the face of incarceration. It's just going to be important because we also know that this movement, when we think about movements, is going to have many tentacles, right? As we see the country erupting, we need to figure out, and this is what we're doing now because it's only 2 days old, how we bring in others, right, to help reframe, reform, push back the attack that we know is coming. We also know that the United States government for about a decade has been preparing for civil unrest in the country, going to Israel and other places, learning, right, the techniques that are being used in Gaza, right? And so we know we've reached that moment where they're going to roll out their best. And so for us, that's why we're organizing, right? Because we need everybody to stand up, right? We need everybody to be that lone person in Tiananmen Square that stands in front of the tank and says, not on our watch, right? Because if it impacts us today, it's Baldwin's quote to Angela Davis. If they come for you by night, they'll be coming for me by morning, right? No one's protected. No one's protected.
I always like to give the final word to the panelists to just shed their one last thought, words of wisdom, or what would you like, the one thing that you want to make sure that everybody in this room walks away with before leaving tonight. What would you say?
It's your duty to fight, right? Stand up.
Definitely. Take advantage of all the resources and the people around you that are involved in these types of movements and these types of forms of activism. Really find your niche. Like Melina said previously, some of us are the type of people to stand on the front line. Some of us are more to sit back and try to, plan these types of events. So please figure out your niche and please find your place within all of this, because at the end of the day, it's upon us to get this together and to make sure that all hell doesn't break loose, because it's going to. So we need to not do that.
I think that all hell needs to break loose, but in a different way, right? We need to be out in these streets, right? You raised, it's going to be open season. It's open season now, but it's going to be open season in a whole nother level, right? The police actually endorsed Donald Trump, right? So why did they endorse Donald Trump? So did the KKK, right? And so I think that we have to, if you are not with an organization, you need to get with one. So we'd love for you to join Black Lives Matter. If you don't want to join Black Lives Matter, join something. You can't do it by yourself. Kwame Ture says, organize, organize, organize. The way that you plug in through Black Lives Matter is our Facebook page is Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Our Twitter is BLMLA. And our Instagram is BLM Los Angeles. Please follow us on social media. There will be things coming up. There's going to be a community screening of 13th tomorrow. So you're welcome to come to that. On Sunday, we're going to have a community brainstorm around what it means to kind of live under a Trump administration. That I didn't have to say president by saying that, right? Under a Trump administration, because the thing that's shifted now is that we're talking about policy. We're not going to be able to push a Trump administration in the way that we could push even, I didn't vote for Clinton or Trump because we live in California, so I voted for Jill Stein. And according to my polls, she won, right? That's all my friends voted for too, right? But I think even under Clinton presidency, we would have seen something different. The tactics would have been different. We could have thought about how to push things because there was at least some semblance of sanity there, right? This man does not care that they find Ku Klux Klan sheets in his closet, right? He doesn't care, right? And so what does it mean to build a movement that's almost a completely an outside movement? So we need you to be on the outside with us, so please plug in.
And I'm gonna leave you with this. Stay woke.
So a few of us on campus are starting a coalition. I don't know if you guys saw, but there are a couple of papers that were on the desk talking about 2 of our students that were called the N-word yesterday by fellow white students. What we would appreciate y'all to do is use the hashtag. It's hashtag #NotMyUSC for those of you who actually go to SC, and just talk about the different instances of discrimination that you've seen on campus. If you want any more information on that, please come up to me, and I will connect you to a couple other people who are in charge of that. So I just want to put that out there.
Thanks for that plug, and I'm sure all of our panelists will be around for a few minutes. You got kids, you probably got to leave, run out of here soon. They're getting restless.
I got another one to pick up too.
But feel free to come up if you have additional questions. And now I'm going to bring up Christina to tell us a little bit about the breakout sessions. And I really wanted to acknowledge Christina, Brittany, and Anna for all their work.